In the previous videos, we looked at the roots of our negative self-talk. We discovered that it's really just habitual thought patterns and not who we really are. And we learned that all those negative thoughts aren't even true. In this video, we will discover that the way forward is in the opposite direction of what you might expect. If you are wanting to get rid of your negative self-talk, what's your natural inclination? Well, to fight it against it, of course. If we want to get rid of something, we need to throw it away, burn it, jettison it from our lives, right? Well, no. Fighting against something doesn't make it have less influence in our lives. Fighting against something actually increases its influence. We learned this from 3 different sources: physics, psychology, and metaphysics. Let's start with the physics. Now, Sir Isaac Newton was one of the most important and influential physicists in history. His view of how our world operates has really been the basis for over 2 centuries of scientific work. It explains how everything works, from what happens when we hit a baseball with a bat to how the planets circle the sun. His discoveries make planes fly, tell us why we see colors, and helps us make refrigerators. Now, apparently, his love of cats and dogs moved him to create the first pet door so his pets could come and go as they pleased. Clearly, a man of great wisdom. Well, his 3rd law states that for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Meaning that if we push against something, it pushes against us. This is why jet engines work and boat motors work. It's why we can lean against a wall and not fall over. And since we know that everything is energy, opposing a particular energy will cause that energy to oppose us. That's why breaking a habit is virtually impossible. Pushing against a habit, just another form of energy, causes that habit to push against us. The more we say no to that piece of chocolate pie, the more we want it. Okay, if that's the physics, what's the psychology? Well, Carl Jung, an influential psychologist and student of Freud, is probably most famous for saying what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. He taught us that the part of our personality that we push away, the parts we're unwilling to accept, what he called the shadow, they find a way to not only remain present in our lives, but exert a growing influence. The harder we work to push away those feelings, thoughts, or traits, the more those same feelings, thoughts, and traits control our lives. This sounds a lot like Newton's 3rd law to me. Now for the metaphysics. The law of attraction says that energy attracts similar energy to it. So if I'm pushing against something, that energy of opposition will attract more opposition. And of course, this is easy to experience. When someone spouts blame and anger, what do they get back? Usually, blame and anger. No, it's not my fault, it's your fault. Just read the news and you'll find that this is true. And of course, when we're kind and compassionate, we generally find kindness and compassion coming back to us. So with the law of attraction, if we focus our energy on opposing something, we will have more to oppose. Now, as I write in Thoughts on Demand, all 3 of these, Newton, Jung, and the law of attraction, tell us that if we want to create change, we first need to stop fighting against what is. By not fighting against what is, we cease to feed it the energy that maintains it. When we stop pushing against something, it stops pushing against us. We rob it of the power it gains from our resistance to it. So, if we want to get rid of our negative self-talk, what's a person to do? Well, first, stop fighting it. Don't feed the monster. Habits, no matter how big they are or how long they've been with us, are like plants. Stop watering them and they die. What's really required to end the battle is surrender. Now, not the sort of surrender that declares a winner and a loser, but the sort that simply accepts what already is, and it does so without judgment. Now, to be clear, acceptance simply means recognizing the fact that what is. Water is wet. I have a son. I feel angry. Acceptance is not to be confused with condoning, which means to disregard or overlook, to give tacit approval to, nor is it to be confused with toleration, which means to endure or put up with. Accepting that we're stuck in the mud applies neither blame nor complaint about being stuck in the mud. Without making judgments about whether we should or shouldn't be stuck, it simply recognizes the fact that we are. This type of surrender means we're not trying to make something into something it's not. We've let go of our interpretations that things should be a certain way. Eventually, we let go of everything, especially the way we've been identifying ourselves. This type of surrender releases us from the burden of the fight. We're not admitting defeat. We're acknowledging what already is. And by ceasing to fight against our negative self-talk, we stop watering it, and it gradually dissipates like smoke. The main point is there's nothing you need to do with what you discovered in those first two phases other than experience your feelings. There's nothing to eradicate, to fix, to reform, or correct. Your old self-doubts are simply habits that have been. Habits that need not have anything to do with the future. All is as it is. Now, even though your inner critic does its best to get you to engage on the topics of your old beliefs, moving on to the following phases only requires you to turn your attention in a new direction. No arguing, no fighting against, just acknowledging the past is past, and then starting fresh in this moment. For now, enjoy the simplicity and the peace of just being. In the next video, we'll look at how to begin turning your attention in a new direction and what that direction is. Till then, I wish you abundance and joy.